Hello. What are these? Oh, they're trinkets from other worlds. Little things. No, I promise nothing dangerous. Just souvenirs of places I've been, visited, or run through on my way to other places. If you're curious, I can tell you a little bit about some of them. Hold on. Everything's out of place. It's nice to be somewhere warm and dry, though, for the night. Unlike most nights. I'm not knocking it. I'd much rather be out on the road than sitting in a comfortable house without anything to do. Let me show you some of these things. They're quite interesting. And I'll tell you a little bit about the worlds too. Equally interesting. So these, Xenovoxes, essentially they do allow you to communicate instantaneously with other people, but they're not one way. You put them in your ears like this. They call these wireless. I would argue, and did argue, there's a wire right there. And the man who gave me these, or I acquired them from him, eventually, seemed much more interested in what I was wearing than what I was saying, although that's fair. I did have a sword strapped to my back. And this wasn't exactly a world where many people had those. They also had these things that, well, I'll tell you a bit more about that in a second. This. Look at the size of this. That's a diamond. Massive diamond. And I got it, well, again, acquired it, not entirely on his terms, from a king who had imprisoned a bunch of women for witchcraft. And I promise you these women were not witches. In fact, as far as I could tell, that entire world had no magic of its own, and yet they were terrified of anything resembling it. Quite human of them. So anyway, I appeared quite suddenly and in a burst of blue light in the middle of this man's council meeting. Apparently he was discussing what to do with all the witches in his basement or dungeon, which is where I quickly ended up, not wanting to immediately repeat the scene I had just caused. I was hoping they'd rather just pass it off as a case of mass hysteria. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and I had to wait a while. I was exhausted. But once I got my energy back, broke all the women out of his dungeon. I hope he's still scrambling around trying to figure out where they went to this day. You won't find them. I took them quite far away, to a much safer village. But this family heirloom, I went to the trouble of figuring out what the most valuable thing in his family treasury was. And it was this. Stole it right out from under the nose of his finest guards. So, I hope he's bitter about it forever. I know I'm going to remember him every time I look at it. I bet it's worth a fortune, but I'll never find out. I'd much rather have the memory and the memento. This is an engagement ring. Quite a nice one too, although I don't know if the gems are real. I'd have to take it to a jeweler. And what does it matter? I'm not giving it away again. I'd rather have the memory. I got this from a woman who proposed to me after 2 days. Apparently, subtlety or lack of forwardness was not a mockable thing or considered unromantic. No courting. She just decided she liked me, and that I don't know. I told her I couldn't stay, and she told me to keep this as a gift. This is beautiful. I wonder how much it's worth. I don't think it would have fit on any of my fingers, though. It's somewhat smaller, as the people from that world were. So, I believe it only fits on my pinky. will have to do. This next one, I know you're going to like this one. Look at this. Also somewhat like a Xenovox, but different. It has much more control. The way that it works is you change the channel, I believe they called it, to a different frequency. And there's positive and negative buttons, and you press one or the other to change between different frequencies. And if you're on the same frequency as someone else with one of these, you can talk to each other from quite a long ways away. And this world was very much in need of things like this. It was some sort of a post-apocalyptic, I don't know if it was a curse or a disease, some sort of plague. They were an advanced civilization, closer to the world with the towers of glass and the wired Xenovoxes than any other I've seen in a while. But whatever it was, the plague or curse had turned many of the men, women, children into monsters, and undead monsters. You cut the head off, clean off, and they keep moving around until you destroy the brain. So, very useful to have if you're out hunting these things, as I did go out hunting these things. It's, you know, a way to thank the people who took me in for the night. A group of survivors. Their camp, I appeared quite close to it, again, exhausted, and there were a group of these undead monsters nearby. They came in and they killed all of the monsters and took me in for the night, and then I stayed with them for about a week, helping them clear off these walkers. That's what they called it. And this is radio. I remember my terminology. So, anyway, that was an interesting adventure. And yes, I did clean this off quite well. Make sure I didn't bring some sort of plague back with me. Alright, what else do I have? Oh, this. This is beautiful. I got it from a woman who had violet eyes, just like Yennefer. But she also had blue skin, and horns, and a tail. And honestly, if I hadn't known better, I would have assumed she was a monster. But she very quickly changed my mind on that matter. That world was much like our own. Same time, same era. Kings and castles and horses and magic. Lots of magic. In fact, this group I found, who I travelled with for a time, they all seemed to have some sort of magic. Well, maybe not all of them, but there was a wizard, and one of them, the one who gave me this. There was a god, she claimed, who gave her her powers, and she had her own religion. She tried to convert me, but I didn't understand enough to worship the god properly, apparently. Although sabotaging things and generally causing mayhem seemed to appease him, in her opinion. So I was quite happy to oblige. Anyway, there were people with clear red eyes, and there were people with violet eyes, and there was even someone with eyes just like yours, slit pupil, golden iris, although he had green skin and tusks and pointed ears. I think they had elves, not exactly like ours though, different, lots more races, lots of non-humans. I don't know what to call them, but almost like demonic or fiendish. The one who gave me this book. I don't know what to think. There was so much going on. Quite a colourful, splendid world. this. This is called a car. It's like a carriage, only it's all metal and there's no horses, and you actually get inside of it and drive it, somewhat like a carriage, only it propels itself, and it doesn't need to be drawn by anything or pushed by anything. This is a model replica of a car owned by these two people I met. Basically hunters. I mean, they acted like hunters. They carried around a bunch of weapons, not weapons like ours, who, I don't know, I suppose they were actually more like witches. They killed monsters. I don't think they were paid for it though, which is unfortunate, but they did save people, and that feels good at least. So, spent some time with them. Either that or they were completely out of their minds. And I have this last thing I have with me. I have plenty more souvenirs, and I'm sure I'll accumulate more as time goes on and I travel more, which I will be doing whether you like it or not. And should you ever become more partial to certain forms of transportation, perhaps you could come with me sometime and I could show you these things in person, although you might not fit in many other worlds. This one, they could use a witcher like you. This was given to me by a very small person, halfling, that's what they were called. Actually, it was the most beautiful countryside I've ever seen in my life. The houses, or I forgot what they call them, built into the sides of the walls, or hillsides. I was given this by a particularly kind one who invited me in for the night, and although I was a bit tall for his home, made for someone closer to 3 foot than 5'7". Anyway, I think that's it. I think that's all. So I will gather these up. It's getting late. I should probably get some sleep before we go set out to kill whatever it is that's terrorizing this village. Enjoy our one night out of the elements. Nice, warm, sheltered, not full of holes, no bugs. Well, that's to be decided, although it seems like a nice establishment. I think I'll gather all this up and turn in then. I'll see you in the morning.